I feel insecure sometimes. I get insecure over my body, over how I look, over my facial features, my voice, how clothes fit me. Realistically, I get insecure over everything. And the funny part about that is that I know that I've been insecure about a lot of things for as long as I can remember, but I've never necessarily let that define me. That feeling or those waves of insecurity always somehow just pass me by eventually. And it's not because I completely removed those insecurities or I just stopped thinking about those insecurities, but it's because I took that insecurity and I just turned it into a feeling. For as long as I'll ever exist, there's going to be something that I feel self-conscious about or insecure about. And honestly, that's just a part of everybody's humanity. But for the longest time, I just wanted to prevent that feeling from happening in the first place, which I feel like a lot of people do. And in my search to never feel insecure again, I watched hundreds of improvement videos on how to completely diminish and remove all insecurities, reading countless books that could teach me how to get rid of that part of myself that feels insecure. And that entire time that I consumed something, I felt like this is the time that something is going to change. In this moment, I felt like nothing in the world could touch me, especially my own internal thoughts about myself. But I think obviously, after the few hours of invincibility eventually faded away, I felt insecure again. After hours, days, and weeks of trying to never feel this emotion again, I felt it. I felt it at the snap of a finger, and that made me really realize that trying to completely diminish this emotion from happening is the dumbest thing that I could have done at the time. I think that trying to find ways to never be insecure again is honestly useless. And the reason that insecurity hit me so hard is because I wasn't trying to acknowledge the actual insecurity, or I wasn't trying to find the root of the issue. I was so set and focused on trying to prevent myself from becoming insecure again. I put all of my energy into the wrong thing that when the insecurity eventually came again, I had no energy to actually combat that, or no energy to even feel like combating it, honestly. And I've learned this as just like a life lesson. A lot of people take energy in trying to prevent something from resurfacing instead of trying to take that energy into becoming prepared for when that thing eventually, inevitably resurfaces. The most difficult thing in learning how to manage something is getting started on managing it, because when you're getting started, that's when it hits you the hardest. I like to think about it this way. Sadness is an emotion that everybody feels. It hits pretty much everybody hard eventually. And yeah, obviously nobody likes to be sad, but it happens. But it's not like you try to stop yourself from becoming sad forever. You learn how to manage that sadness. You treat yourself differently when you feel sad because you've adapted to the sadness and you realize what works best for you and what helps you feel better in that scenario. It's not like we try our hardest to never feel that feeling again, because we all know that yes, it's going to happen again. And I might as well figure out how to deal with it now than postpone having to deal with that till later. And similar to ignoring your insecurity, when you suppress that sadness and you never really address that sadness and you just become those type of people that never express their emotions, then you're just internalizing bottled up hate. Eventually that's still going to come back to bite you. It's going to project onto other people. But for the most part, I think a lot of people have learned how to deal with their own sadness and they don't really let it define themselves. But I think that insecurity reaches its toxic breaking point when we start to let that define us. Like I said before, occasionally I do feel insecure, but I would never call myself an insecure person. The same way I've been sad so many times, but I would never necessarily call myself a sad person. When insecurity starts to define your character, it becomes less of an insecurity, less of a feeling, and more of just a mental parasite. And when it gets to this point, day in and day out, you're letting this mental parasite make decisions for you, or you just start viewing yourself as that insecurity. This is when it turns from an insecurity to a character trait. And when your insecurity becomes a character trait, then that's what you start to become known for. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're insecure about your height. The first thing that's going to come to your mind when you're talking to somebody new is addressing your height. Or maybe you've been insecure about your haircut for like 5 months. So now when you meet somebody new, the first thing that comes to your mind is to address how stupid you think your haircut looks because you don't want them to do it first. When the whole time that person probably didn't care about your haircut. That feeling of just being defined by insecurity really had me in a chokehold for a long time, up until I started to not let it define me. There would be moments where I begin to feel insecure or feel self-conscious about something, and I wouldn't be able to control that feeling. It'll be just a wave of insecurity where I'm not really sure where it comes from, but it just happens. And as a human, I'm going to be dealing with that for the rest of my life. But in the past, when I used to let this insecurity define me, I just dwelled on it and I allowed that feeling to linger on without really addressing it. And I think that with social media, people are starting to normalize a lot of things that probably shouldn't be normalized. For example, at the time, I was looking at people trying to just normalize insecurity. And so I let it define me because I saw people claiming, oh, it's okay to just feel insecure and it's okay to feel this way. Because of what I consumed, I thought it was normal to continue to dwell on your insecurity and let insecurity define you as a person. But eventually it clicked that I wasn't supposed to be letting this define me, and I wasn't really sure on how to stop that from happening. So the first thing that I thought to do was just suppress it. I thought that finding security in myself meant to ignore all of my insecurities, which obviously isn't the case. Finding security in yourself is acknowledging the fact that you do have insecurities and it's going to keep on coming up, and acknowledging that you have to find a way to work around that. Just this week, I felt a little bit insecure about my body, and I started to compare myself to other people. And I'm not sure where this wave of insecurity came from, and there were really two things I could have done in that scenario. And obviously, this isn't the first or the only time that I felt this way. And I'm probably going to feel the same way in the future, despite how comfortable I am in my body. But I don't know, this time it clicked and I just viewed it completely different. Instead of my actions becoming dependent on avoiding that insecurity, I started to acknowledge it and try to actually make a change. The moment I felt that wave of insecurity, I worked out immediately and I looked in the mirror and realized that I was in my head the whole time. Versus before, when I would probably just throw on a hoodie and just avoid that insecurity altogether and then allow that to just linger on in my head for the next 2 weeks. I think that there's a lot more comfort in realizing that you can change something and then doing it versus just hiding and trying to run away from that feeling that you're having. After that moment where I worked out and just became more comfortable in myself, I started to just look back into what could have caused that feeling. But I had to be clear of that insecurity at first to even find what the issue was. So in the moment, I looked at myself and I was insecure about my body, and it came from the fact that I wasn't working out or exercising as much as I wanted to, and it seemed like I was falling behind the other people my age. So I started comparing myself, and in that moment I realized that if I wanted to change something, then I needed to first figure out if I can even change it, and if I can, I need to work on that, and if not, I need to just stop worrying about it in itself. I feel like there are two groups of people on the internet right now. The first group of people are the ones that let their insecurity define themselves and preach that on other people and tell people that it's okay and normalized to feel insecure. And then the second group of people feel like confidence comes from not having insecurity at all. And then they project it onto their audience that if you feel insecure, you're doing something wrong with your life. Confidence comes from having insecurities, realizing you will always have insecurities, and still loving yourself nonetheless. Honestly, I think that the most insecure thing that a person can do is act like they don't have insecurities, because that just means that you're scared that people are going to view you less if you show your humanity and you show your vulnerability, and that's not confidence at all. That is insecurity in itself. The opposite of insecurity is confidence, and you can't feel confident if you haven't felt insecure. The same way the opposite of feeling happy is sad, and you can't be happy if you don't know that there's something to be sad about. I don't think I would ever be confident in my body if I've never been in a situation where I was insecure about it. I'm confident in my speech, my face, my voice, everything about myself, and that's because I've been insecure about pretty much everything about myself. If I wasn't insecure at those points in time, then I wouldn't know how proud I truly was about the person I became. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching this video. I appreciate all of you guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.